Madison Carter pushes the glass door open and steps into the corridor, heels clicking like a countdown. Behind her, the boardroom erupts, thunderous claps, chairs scraping, a few whistles of disbelief. The regional director's voice booms through the crack in the door. "Ladies and gentlemen, meet the youngest vice president of strategy in our company's history." Madison's pulse hammers in her ears. She forces a steady breath, straightens her navy blazer, and lets the moment settle on her shoulders. Bright ceiling lights blur into soft halos, reflecting off polished floors that smell faintly of lemon and ambition. She should feel weightless, but a familiar pinch of doubt tugs at her gut. A ghost named, "Am I enough?" She slips her phone from her pocket, thumb hovering over the family group chat, desperate for a line that reads, "We're proud of you, Maddie." Nothing. Just a silent screen glowing back at her. The applause fades behind the door. The hallway suddenly sounds too empty, too honest. For one breath, she allows herself a private smile, small, determined, armor-plated. Then she squares her shoulders and heads toward the elevators, unaware that tonight the celebration will turn into a battlefield. Her phone shivers in her palm. Bzzz. Madison glances down, hope flickering. It's Mom. She taps the notification, breath paused mid-throat. "Mom, Kyle deserves this more." 4 words detonate louder than any cheering crowd. The hallway's fluorescent hum dulls to a distant drone. Madison's victory balloon deflates in one silent pop. Suddenly, she's a kid again, holding a straight A report card while her brother shows off a C+ and still earns the bigger hug. A sting spreads behind her eyes. She swallows it like a bitter pill, forces her thumb to lock the screen. For a heartbeat, she imagines replying, "I earned this." But the reply box stays blank. No text can outshout a lifetime of second place. She tucks the phone away, spine rigid, breath measured. The elevator dings, doors slide open. She steps inside, deciding that applause is just noise if the wrong people are clapping. The camera glides across the marble floor, skimming clusters of laughing coworkers until it finds the hotel bar, a pocket of darkness just outside the halo of celebration. Amber sconces cast syrupy light over cut crystal bottles, turning every rim of glass into a tiny, trembling sunrise. Kyle Carter occupies the center stool like a throne. His suit jacket hangs off one shoulder, silk tie knotted halfway down his chest, hint of sweat darkening the collar. He absent-mindedly draws circles on the bar top with a wet thumb, then lifts a tumbler of 18-year Macallan in sloppy salute. The ice clinks twice, lazy and disrespectful. A crooked grin slices across his face. It isn't joy, it's prophecy. His eyes, sharp as busted bottle glass, track Madison through the mirrored back wall. For a breath, he studies her reflection, the way a hunter sizes the distance to a stag, calculating wind angle, chance of clean kill. The soundtrack drops to a single cello note, stretched thin to near breaking. A metallic sting, like a blade scraped against granite, rips through the ambience, foreshadowing collision. In that suspended second, chatter fades, applause dies, and every neon reflection seems to whisper the same warning: he's coming for what you earned. Madison feels the stare before she sees it. She turns just enough to meet Kyle's gaze head-on. Her spine stiffens, chin lifts a fraction, an unspoken, "Not tonight." But Kyle's grin only widens, confident, predatory. He taps 2 fingers against the rim of his glass, signaling the bartender for another round, as if fortifying himself for the storm he intends to unleash. Madison inhales, counts to 3, and pivots toward the exit. The camera lingers on Kyle a moment longer, zooming on the smear of lipstick still visible on his collar, a silent receipt from some forgotten intern. He drains his glass in one swallow, slams it down, and rolls his shoulders like a boxer loosening up before the bell. The threat has form now, and it smells of peat smoke and entitlement. Same night. The celebration lights of the hotel feel like a distant illusion, now swallowed whole by the cold, artificial glare of the Carter family's living room. The chandelier above buzzes faintly, washing everything in a sterile white, too bright to be cozy, too sharp to hide behind. The silence isn't peaceful, it's loaded. Madison steps inside, heels clicking on polished tile. The door shuts behind her with a heavy thud. Her eyes land on the scene. Dad seated, spine stiff, her resume clutched like a police report. Kyle paces behind him, fingers raking through his already messy hair. No one says congratulations. No one even says hello. Her father finally speaks, voice low but edged in steel. "You're going to call HR first thing in the morning and reject the promotion." The words don't drop, they crash. Madison blinks, expecting to hear wrong, but there's no punchline, no smirk, just Kyle pacing like a storm cloud about to break. "You heard me," Dad repeats. "Kyle needs this more than you. You're not married, no kids. You don't need the pressure. He does." Her resume flaps in his hand like a guilty verdict. 10 years of effort, 70-hour weeks, sacrificed birthdays, all reduced to a piece of paper in the wrong hands. Madison swallows the lump in her throat. But something in her starts to crack, not from weakness, but from the weight of everything she's never said. Her father's voice slices through the silence like a courtroom gavel. "Call HR tomorrow and reject the promotion." No hesitation, no warmth, just a command delivered like corporate policy. Madison stares at him, chest tightening. For a second, she thinks, maybe I misheard. Maybe he meant to say, "Congratulations, sweetheart, you made history." But his face is stone. There's no space for misinterpretation. She lets out a breath. "Excuse me?" Her father doesn't even flinch. "It's not about you, Maddie. Kyle's been struggling. You don't have a family yet. You can't understand the pressure he's under." Behind him, Kyle scoffs, like the victim he believes he is. "She always gets everything," he mutters. Everything. Madison feels her jaw lock. She thinks of the nights she slept under her desk, the holidays she spent alone with spreadsheets, the meals she skipped to save for certifications while Kyle used the family credit card to book flights to Vegas. "I earned this," she says slowly, low but firm. "Every inch of it." Her father leans forward, eyes narrowing. "And you will give it up. For your brother. That's what family does." Madison stands still, heartbeat thudding in her ears. In that moment, she realizes family doesn't mean loyalty when it's one-sided. It means control. Madison's voice doesn't rise. It sharpens. "No." A single word, razor clean. She says it not just to her father, but to every year she swallowed her worth. To every dinner where Kyle was praised for showing up while she disappeared into effort no one noticed. "I will not call HR," she adds louder now. "I'm not giving this up. Not for you, not for Kyle, not for anyone." Her father rises slowly, the resume still in his hand, now crumpled at the edges. His jaw ticks. His eyes harden. Then, without warning, his open palm cuts across her face. Crack. The sound is sharp and immediate, like glass shattering in a cathedral. Madison stumbles back a step, hand to her cheek. Her skin burns, and the taste of blood creeps into her mouth like a bitter truth long delayed. She doesn't cry. She doesn't scream. She just stares. Across from her, her mother doesn't flinch. She doesn't gasp. She doesn't move. She just sits, staring ahead, like this is just Tuesday. And Kyle lets out a laugh. Not full, not loud, just smug. "It's just a title," he mutters, like it costs her nothing. Madison lowers her hand. Her cheek throbs, her ears ring. But inside her, something clicks. Not fear, not sadness, finality. Madison stumbles out of the living room, her heels clicking unevenly against the hardwood floor as she grips the wall for balance. The hallway is dim lit, only by the glow of a sconce above the mirror, the same mirror that's hung there since childhood. She drops to her knees in front of it, breathing shallow, shoulders tight. Her reflection stares back, lips split, skin flushed, eyes wide with something beyond pain. It's not fear, it's recognition. The silence in the house is crushing now. No footsteps behind her, no apologies, just that ever-familiar stillness after a storm that no one in her family ever admits happened. Madison touches her lip and winces. A smear of blood colors her fingers dark, thick, metallic. She stares at it, then at her own face. For the first time, she doesn't see the overachieving daughter, the responsible sister, the peacekeeper. She sees the woman who's done pleasing, done obeying, done bleeding for people who'd never lift a hand to help but would raise one to hurt. She leans in toward the mirror, so close her breath fogs the glass, and then she whispers, calm, cold, and absolute, never again. Not a threat, a promise, to herself. To the girl in the mirror who's finally had enough, it's past midnight. The house is dead quiet, so quiet Madison can hear the low hum of the refrigerator and the ticking of the hallway clock, like a countdown to war. Her cheek still stings, but the pain has faded into something colder, calculation. She kneels in front of the hall closet, dragging out a dusty metal lockbox she hasn't touched in years. The key dangles from a ribbon tucked inside an old jewelry box her grandfather gave her when she was 12. The moment she turns the key, the click echoes louder than expected, like something buried has been disturbed. Inside tax records, envelopes, bank statements yellowed at the edges, and tucked beneath them all, a thick manila folder labeled in her grandfather's careful handwriting, Madison Trust Fund Private. Her hands tremble as she lifts it. Memories flood back, her grandfather's voice telling her, one day this will help you do something great, not just safe, great. But that day never came, because every time she asked about it, her father would wave it off. There are legal issues, it's complicated, it's not really there anymore. Tonight, she stops believing him. Madison opens the folder and starts reading. Page after page, her eyes move faster, her breath shallow. Then, her pulse stops cold. Because right there on paper in ink are records of multiple loans taken in her name, backed by the trust fund, loans she never signed for, and they all trace back to Kyle. Her trust fund had been used as collateral for his failed business 5 years ago. And worse, her father's name is on every authorization form. Fraud, betrayal, family, in ink. The numbers don't lie. They leap off the page like flashing sirens, bold, brutal, undeniable. Loan 1, $150,000, backed by Madison Carter Trust. Loan 2, $95,000, collateral same. Loan 3, $80,000, labeled Urgent Expansion Kyle Carter Tech Solutions. The total over $325,000, all tied to her name, all drained from the safety net her grandfather built. Her breath catches. She runs her fingers over her name typed in crisp, formal print, Madison S. Carter, listed as guarantor on every single loan. Her signature is nowhere to be found because she never signed a thing. But her name, it's on everything. Her trust fund wasn't lost. It was stolen, siphoned in slow-motion betrayal, disguised as family support, rubber-stamped by her father, and quietly buried under legal complications. Madison flips through the pages faster now, anger rising like a tide. Notes in the margin, Kyle's name everywhere. She sees a memo between her father and the bank. Madison doesn't ask questions. She won't notice. That's when the nausea hits. They didn't just steal. They bet on her silence. They assumed her compliance was permanent. And they used her own inheritance to finance a loser's dream, then let the debt rot in her name. Madison closes the folder, hands trembling. Her fingers curl into fists. Her voice, when it comes, is barely above a whisper. No more. Madison doesn't sleep. She doesn't cry. At 6:03 a.m., eyes bloodshot and jaw set like steel, she dials the number she's saved in her phone but never thought she'd use. Evelyn Park, Corporate Counsel, Ethics and Asset Recovery. The phone rings once, twice. Then, Evelyn speaking. It's Madison Carter. I need help, legal help, family-level betrayal, corporate-level fraud. Say no more. Evelyn replies, voice crisp, alert, deadly calm. Meet me at my office. Bring everything. 3 hours later, they sit across from each other in a high-rise office wrapped in glass. The city bustles below, but inside the room, it's War Council silence. Madison spreads the documents out on the table. Loan records, trust statements, internal memos. Evelyn skims each one with surgical focus. No raised eyebrows, no gasp. Just quiet nods, like she's seen this story 100 times, just not told this well. You want justice, Evelyn finally says. I want them to feel it, Madison replies, and I want to make sure no one ever buries me again. Good, Evelyn says. Then here's what we do. She grabs a legal pad and begins to write. 1. Freeze the trust immediate injunction to stop further misuse. 2. Collect evidence, financial trails, emails, voice recordings, witness statements. 3. Whistleblower action. Submit internal complaint through legal channels for ethics violations, conflict of interest, and fraudulent HR activity. We don't knock on the castle gate, Evelyn says, eyes sharp. We take it down, brick by brick. Madison exhales, her spine finally straightening. She's not just a victim anymore. She's a strategist. A soldier, and she's just declared war. Monday morning, a cold, steel-gray light floods the corporate hallway as the camera tracks Madison's heels click, 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 striking against the marble floor with precision. Each step echoes like a countdown only she can hear. Gone is the doubt. Gone is the daughter who waited for permission. Madison Carter walks with purpose now. In her hand, a sleek black portfolio. Inside, the evidence. Emails, audio files, signatures, screenshots, everything they thought she'd never find, everything they assumed she was too scared to use. She passes stunned assistants and whispering interns. Some glance up, recognizing the headline they read over the weekend. VP Madison Carter files internal complaint against family for corporate fraud. But no one dares speak. No one dares stop her. She rounds the corner. The boardroom looms ahead, tall glass doors reflecting her back to herself. For a moment, she pauses, straightens her navy blue suit, adjusts the single gold pin on her lapel, her grandfather's. Then, head high, she pushes the doors open. This isn't just a meeting, it's a reckoning. The boardroom falls silent as Madison walks to the front, 10 pairs of eyes tracking her every move. Senior partners, CFOs, legal counsel, even the CEO is here, leaning back in his chair, arms crossed, expression unreadable. No one speaks. They all know what this is. Madison sets down her black portfolio with a soft thud, then removes a single object, a slim silver thumb drive. She walks to the console, inserts it into the port. The projector hums to life. Before we begin, she says, voice even but razor sharp, I believe the board deserves full transparency regarding a few family initiatives conducted without oversight. Click. Slide 1, an email from her father to a mid-level manager. Subject, Madison Carter / strategic concerns. If we can subtly increase her workload, we'll likely see her performance deteriorate within the quarter. I'd like Kyle prepped as her internal replacement. Gasps. Chairs shift. One board member removes his glasses, blinking hard. Click. Slide 2, a screenshot of Kyle's Slack chat with another exec. She's burning out anyway. I give it 3 months before I take the seat. Family's got this in the bag. Click. Audio clip. Kyle's voice, drunk at a company event. I don't need to earn VP. Maddie'll crack under pressure. Then Daddy just slides me in. The room freezes. The only sound is the soft whir of the ceiling fan. Madison doesn't gloat. She doesn't even smile. She looks each board member dead in the eye and says, "I'm not resigning, but they are." Silence. The kind that doesn't just hang in the air, it presses against your chest. Madison stands tall at the head of the room, the projector screen behind her still frozen on Kyle's smug Slack message. No one moves. No one blinks. Then the CEO clears his throat and leans forward. "We'll take a brief vote. Closed ballot." 15 seconds later, the verdict is in. A senior legal officer stands. Effective immediately, both Frank Carter and Kyle Carter are suspended from company premises pending an internal ethics investigation. 2 guards, corporate security, plain black suits step in through the side door. They don't say a word. They don't need to. Madison's father stiffens in his chair. "This is absurd," he growls. "She's manipulating." But no one listens. Kyle sputters behind him, red-faced and panicking. "I've got equity. I'm on 3 committees." "Not anymore," one of the board members says flatly. The guards approach. Kyle backs up instinctively. Frank slams a hand on the table. "You'll regret this." Madison doesn't even flinch. She doesn't need to say anything, because for the first time in her life, the room speaks for her. By the time Madison steps outside the building, the sun has climbed high, but the air feels electric, like the moments before a summer storm. Her phone vibrates nonstop in her bag. News alerts, missed calls, emails flagged urgent. She doesn't check them yet. She doesn't have to, because the headlines are already everywhere, on screens in the lobby, on a coworker's tablet, on the taxi TV as it pulls up to the curb. VP Madison Carter exposes father and brother in explosive ethics hearing. Family dynasty implodes after whistleblower drops receipts. Trust fund betrayal. Carter name faces corporate fraud scandal. Her face is on every thumbnail, jaw tight, blazer, sharp eyes unwavering. And beneath each headline is a subtext that can't be undone. The girl they once erased is now the woman rewriting the narrative. People stare as she walks by, some in awe, some in shock, some not knowing what side to take. But Madison doesn't stop. She doesn't wave, doesn't speak. She just keeps walking. High heels tapping to the rhythm of a legacy she's taking back one headline at a time. The TV in Madison's apartment is muted, but the images say more than the anchors ever could. Cable news split screens are everywhere, flashing between her boardroom showdown, stock market reactions, and blurry photos of her father and Kyle being escorted out of company headquarters. Across the screen scrolls the headline in bold all caps, "Family Feud Fraud, VP Takes Down Own Blood in Corporate Scandal." Pundits argue in boxes, their faces framed by flashing graphics. Was she brave or ruthless? Did she save the company or destroy the family name? Can you ever really separate business from blood? Madison sits in silence on her couch, a single mug of black coffee in her hands, the city skyline blurred behind her window. She doesn't flinch, she doesn't react. She simply watches, calm, steady, unreadable. Let them talk. Let them dissect her, label her, project onto her. Because while they fill airwaves with noise, she's already planning her next move. In a polished downtown courthouse beneath tall glass windows and the American flag fluttering above the steps, Evelyn Park steps out in a navy trench coat, briefcase in hand, face unreadable. At exactly 9 a.m., she files a civil lawsuit in Madison's name. 3 counts, 3 wounds. All carved with the same signature, Frank Carter. Count 1, breach of trust, for misusing Madison's inheritance, for siphoning funds behind her back, for violating the will of the man her grandfather, who had entrusted that money to help her build a future, not finance someone else's failures. Count 2, identity fraud, for forging documents, for putting loans in her name, for weaponizing her silence and her last name. Count 3, emotional damages, for the slap, for the public humiliation. For the gaslighting, the decades of being told you're overreacting while they schemed behind closed doors. The suit lands like a thunderclap in the corporate world. Law blogs light up. Financial circles buzz. Former employees come forward. And Madison, she doesn't gloat. She doesn't parade. She lets the documents do the talking. Because this time, the paper trail fights back. The ripple effect is swift and brutal. It starts with Kyle's fiancé. 1 week after the lawsuit goes public, she's seen leaving their luxury condo with 2 suitcases and no ring. A friend leaks a screenshot. "I didn't sign up to marry a liar hiding behind his sister's money." By Friday, she's scrubbed every trace of him from her social media. Then comes Frank Carter's public fall. At the university he once donated millions to, maintenance workers quietly remove a bronze plaque, the Carter Legacy Scholarship Fund. Screws squeal. The wall is bare. Legacy erased. Corporate clubs strike his name off board lists. Speaking invitations vanish. His once daily calls go unanswered. And then, perhaps the cruelest of ironies, foreclosure signs appear on the family lawn. The same pristine 2-story suburban home where Madison once practiced piano and learned how to set a dinner table like a lady. Now, brown grass, closed blinds, a white sign with red letters planted like a wound, bank repossession pending auction. Neighbors whisper. The mailbox overflows, but inside no one answers the door, because behind that door is the cost of every stolen signature. Madison doesn't buy a sports car. She doesn't move into a penthouse. She doesn't throw a victory party. Instead, she walks into a modest downtown office space, exposed brick, tall windows, clean energy lighting, and signs a lease under a new name, the Carter Initiative for Women in Leadership, funded entirely by the first wave of settlement money from her civil suit. Money that was meant to silence her, now used to amplify other women's voices. Within weeks, the program launches workshops on strategic leadership, mentorship circles for first-gen professionals, legal literacy seminars for young women navigating corporate contracts. Her face is no longer just on headlines, it's on flyers, on keynote banners, on podiums where she doesn't speak as someone's daughter, but as the woman who built a blueprint from betrayal. The media at first calls it rebranding, but those who attend, they call it rebirth. And Madison, she just calls it necessary. It's a gray November afternoon. Rain taps gently against the floor-to-ceiling glass panels of Madison's corner office. The air smells like peppermint tea and productivity. Her assistant, Jenna, knocks softly. "You've got 2 visitors," she says, voice unsure. "They didn't make an appointment. They say it's urgent." Madison looks up from her laptop, brows tightening. "Who?" Jenna hesitates. "Your parents." For a moment, nothing moves, just the sound of rain and a low hum from the city below. Madison doesn't speak. She just rises slowly and walks toward the glass wall that faces the hallway. And there, through the blurred mist of the window, she sees them. 2 silhouettes. Her father, once so towering, now hunched and tentative. Her mother coat clutched tightly, eyes darting, hands trembling as she clings to her purse strap. They look smaller, faded, like a photograph left out in the sun too long. Madison stares at them unmoving. The hallway lights behind them cast long shadows, but no warmth. This is not a reunion. This is a reckoning they didn't know was coming. Madison opens the door but doesn't invite them to sit. She simply steps aside. Her posture is straight, her face unreadable. This is her office. Her ground. Her rules now. Her father speaks, first voice cracked and low, no longer commanding, no longer certain. "We need work, Maddie," he says. "Anything. Part-time, temporary, whatever you have." The words land with a hollow thud. The man who once slapped her for earning a title is now begging for a task, any task, beneath the weight of consequences he created. Her mother stands just behind him, wringing her hands, eyes red and swollen. "We're behind on rent," she whispers through choked sobs. "Kyle's back home. He's not well. My job at the florist doesn't even cover groceries." Madison listens without blinking. She remembers every holiday alone, every voicemail ignored, every time her success was treated like an inconvenience. She sees their desperation, and for a split second, she even feels it. But empathy isn't the same as forgiveness. She doesn't speak yet, because she knows the response that's coming isn't from a daughter, it's from a leader. Madison walks calmly to her filing cabinet, slides open the bottom drawer, and pulls out 2 crisp manila folders. She sets them gently on the glass table between them. Her parents look down. Inside each folder, a printed job application. Title, Administrative Assistant. Entry level, wage, $18.25 an hour, no benefits, no perks, just work. She doesn't raise her voice. She doesn't look smug. She simply says, "You want to work here? You'll start where I started." Her father opens his mouth, but no sound comes out. Her mother blinks, stunned, like someone had just turned the lights off mid-sentence. Madison leans forward slightly, voice steady. "This isn't revenge. It's fairness. I could have blacklisted you from every corporate firm in the region, but I didn't, because I'm not you." She pauses, then adds colder, "But don't mistake mercy for an invitation. I'll never work with you. You may apply, like everyone else. No special passes, no back doors, no legacy hires. Just the uncomfortable seat on the other side of the table where she once sat, and no one helped her." Her parents stand frozen still, processing the weight of what just happened. Frank Carter, once the voice of every room, now silent eyes cast downward. Her mother clutches her purse like it's the last familiar thing she has left. Madison walks to the door, fingers resting on the handle. She looks back at them one final time, not with anger, not even sadness, but with clarity. "You said I wasn't leadership material," she says quietly. "Turns out I was the only one who ever was." And with that, she pulls the door closed. Click. Not a slam, not a shove, just a soft, intentional closing. But the sound rings louder than any argument. It echoes down the marble hallway past glass panels and waiting rooms until it fades into the rhythm of a new world, one where Madison doesn't carry their weight anymore. On the other side of that door, 2 parents stand stunned. But on this side, a woman sits back down at her desk alone, unshaken, and finally, free. The city hums beneath a velvet night sky, alive with headlights and office lights, like neurons firing in a giant electric brain. Camera pans upward, across glass towers and neon spires, until it stops on one particular building, the headquarters, the same place where she was once dismissed, doubted, slapped in silence. But now, at the top, lit in soft white against the darkness, 5 letters shine proudly: Carter. No first name, no apology, no footnote, just the name they once tried to bury, now impossible to ignore. Inside the office is quiet, desks are empty, elevators still. But Madison's corner suite is glowing gently light, spilling through sheer curtains like moonlight. She's not there to prove a point anymore. She is the point. The legacy they tried to steal is now spelled out in steel and electricity high above a city that once overlooked her. Not anymore. Voiceover begins as the skyline fades into scenes of a transformed company culture, laughter in break rooms, diverse teams brainstorming in glass-walled huddle rooms. A new sense of momentum humming through every floor. In the 2 quarters following Madison Carter's promotion to President of Strategic Development and Equity Inclusion, the company posted an 11% profit increase, its highest in 5 years. Employee turnover dropped by nearly 30%. Exit interviews cited transparent leadership and ethical restoration as reasons for staying. A new equity inclusion charter was introduced, Madison's first initiative in her new role, guaranteeing mentorship, unbiased promotion paths, and legal protection for whistleblowers. As the narration continues, the camera glides through scenes of growth. A woman in her 20s receiving her first leadership certificate from Madison. A veteran employee hugging a colleague as she learns she's been promoted on merit, not legacy. A boardroom wall, now featuring portraits of rising talent, diverse, ambitious, and finally, seen. And at the center of it all, not the name Carter as inheritance, but Carter as standard. The screen fades to black, then reopens on Madison standing at the edge of her office's panoramic window. Behind her, the skyline she once faced with doubt. In front of her, the reflection of a woman who never surrendered. She turns slow, deliberate toward the camera, her eyes steady. Her voice calm but razor sharp. They bet on my silence. She takes a breath, not out of hesitation, but out of precision. I invested their noise in my voice. She leans in, not physically, but emotionally, not just speaking to the audience, but challenging them. So tell me, which bet would you place? The frame holds her gaze for a beat longer, then cuts to black. No music, no applause, just silence, finally on her terms. As the screen stays black, a single line fades in, white, simple, #pieces of soul. A soft instrumental rises, not triumphant, but resolute. This isn't just Madison's story anymore. Under the hashtag, new text appears. Your voice has power. Your story matters. What will you reclaim? Clips of real women, nurses, teachers, founders, artists flicker briefly across the screen. No narration, just faces. Eyes that have seen, endured, risen. Then, share your moment. Tag #pieces of soul. Be the voice someone else needs to hear. And with that, the screen fades completely. A story ends. A movement begins. Not everyone born into your family will fight for you. Madison Carter's journey is a raw, unapologetic reminder. Sometimes the people meant to protect you are the ones who try to erase you first. The biggest takeaway, true power isn't in the titles you're given. It's in the courage to stand your ground when those closest to you try to take it away. Silence may be their weapon, but when you find your voice, you don't just save yourself. You set others free. Whether you've been underestimated, betrayed, or backed into a corner, remember, you're not a victim in someone else's story. You are the author of your own legacy. If this story hit you in the gut, gave you chills, or made you whisper, "That's me," then trust me, there are so many more stories like this waiting for you here on Pieces of Soul. Hit that subscribe button if you believe in truth healing and the power of reclaiming your worth. Turn on the bell to never miss the next voice that might just mirror your own. Got your own story buried deep inside? This is where it begins. Subscribe now. Your voice matters. Your story could be the one that saves someone else. Pieces of Soul, where pain turns to power.